Welcome back to the Leaner, Stronger and Confident as Fuck podcast. This week on the podcast, I'm diving into a topic that I get asked about by clients all the time. And it is something that I'm navigating in real time myself as well. How do I stay on track with my physique goals if I get sick? Because yes, you guessed it. The first week of my Sydney adventure has not exactly been smooth sailing. So Joe, my husband, has been in bed pretty much most of the last 7 days out of the 9 that we have been in Sydney. And he seems to actually have a proper case of the man flu. He has barely been going out. He's not been eating much. He has been feeling absolutely horrendous. And I have been fighting off some version of it since about Sunday. Luckily, I've not been feeling as bad as Joe, but I've definitely not been feeling my best. And even though that wasn't exactly how we kind of planned our start to Sydney, I've still been having a great time and still been hitting my targets as well around my photo shoot prep. Because yes, getting sick as soon as kind of getting over jet lag was also not part of the plan. And when I've only got about 10 weeks left of my photo shoot prep, I really wanted to maximize this time as well. And so I have been able to keep across all of my targets still, even though I've been sick. But I want to share a little bit more around exactly how I'm navigating it, because getting sick is part of life. Unfortunately, it's something that pretty much all of us have to deal with at some point. And it can be really frustrating when you're in the middle of a goal, whether you are in a fat loss phase yourself, whatever phase you're in, whether you are just working on a health journey, you feel like you're in your stride and then all of a sudden you get hit with something. And then how you handle it is going to often determine how quickly you can recover from it, but also it can help keep you either in momentum or feel like your progress has stalled again. So I wanted to share how I coach clients through it and how I'm navigating it myself. And I know that you'll have lots of helpful takeaways out of this episode. So I hope you're not sick right now yourself, although I do seem to actually have quite a few clients who have also been struck down with various different lurgies over the last couple of weeks. And so even if you're not going through that right now yourself, I hope you're not. Save this episode perhaps for a time that it is going to be relevant for you. And either way, this is going to really be applicable for you to be able to take some of what I'm sharing here and apply it to anything that you're going through in terms of whether it is just a more stressful period, whether it is a period of a lot more disruption in your life, or anytime you feel like you've kind of lost your mojo. All of these things that I'm going to share are going to help you navigate any of those things as well. And of course, there are so many different ways that we could be experiencing sickness, and I'm not going to be able to cover all of them individually. So I'm just going to be speaking generally about how to handle nutrition, training, recovery, if you're feeling a bit under the weather, with the focus on how can we get back to feeling our best as quickly as possible and continue to make the progress that we want in our goals. And there is a key mindset shift that can really make all the difference in this kind of situation. And it's something that I have spotted in clients that really make the best progress overall, the most consistent progress. They're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. No one is, myself included. But it's the clients who ask me, what can I do if they are sick? What can I do if I am really busy? What can I do if I've got this unusual challenge that I'm trying to navigate? They're the ones who generally make consistent progress on a much more frequent basis. Versus the clients who come to me and say, I'm sick, so therefore I can't train, I can't hit my targets, I can't do this, I can't do that. They are usually the clients who are looking for any excuse to kind of let themselves off the hook. And I know that might sound harsh, but I have seen it over and over again. And I also know that it is up to us to really choose the mindset that is going to help us perform the best in the moment, feel our best, and get back to our full health in the best way possible. And very rarely is it doing nothing that is going to actually help facilitate that. And just having that shift of asking yourself that question, what can I do no matter how I'm feeling? What can I do with how I'm feeling right now? Is going to frame your mind in a way that's going to search for the solutions to your problem. And when you're sick, your recovery is always the most important thing, full stop. That is all that has been on Joe's mind, I know, in the last week. He's just, I cannot wait to feel well again. I cannot wait to feel healthy again. But recovery is always going to be sped up by focusing on the pillars of health. And those pillars of health, they are ultimately the foundation of all targets that I set my clients, no matter the nutritional phase they're in. This is something that I will say to my clients over and over and over again. Every single thing that I am working with them on a body transformation journey, other than the amount of calories that they're having, because if they're in a calorie deficit, that does not mean that that is something that's important for their health. That is required for fat loss. So other than reducing calories, the other things that we focus on to build our best, most confident bodies are essentially the foundations of health. They are eating mostly whole foods, prioritizing nutrients, getting a variety of fruits and vegetables, making sure we're getting adequate fiber in our day, drinking lots of water, getting good quality sleep, having stress management in place, getting enough protein, walking lots, and just looking after our mental health. Those are all things that should be the foundation of any approach to overall health and fitness. And then on top of that, we of course have our strength training and perhaps some cardio, but I'm going to cover training separately in a moment. So when I'm sick, I ask myself that question, what can I do out of all of those pillars of health? And then I just do them to the best of my ability. I don't overcomplicate it. But if I'm eating food, I focus on eating whole foods because I want to get as many nutrients in my body to help with recovery. Making sure I'm having some fruit, some veg, anything that is just a single ingredient, nutrient dense whole food. Making sure I'm getting some protein in there too. Drinking lots and lots of water. Getting as much good quality sleep as I can. And going for a walk as well is something that I can pretty much always muster up the energy to do. Even if it feels hard to get myself out of the door if I'm really unwell, just going for a gentle short walk is something that I always tend to feel better for. But if I'm sick, maybe I'm just going for a couple of short walks throughout the day, because taking a big long walk if you're not very well can actually end up taking it out of you a little bit too much. So just breaking it up into short 10-minute walks, getting some sunlight if you can, having some power naps, focusing on getting some nutrients in. And because all of those things are such a part of my routine, I do naturally gravitate to them anyway. And I know that those are the anchors that are actually going to make me feel better. I think years and years ago, where those things weren't as much of a part of my routine, I might have gravitated more towards comfort food in those moments, and then ended up actually kind of feeling worse as a result of eating something that didn't have as many nutrients in, that maybe was more processed. And honestly, I've just learned by trial and error again through all the different times where I have maybe gravitated towards a comfort food, ate it, felt worse after, and then not wanted to feel like that again. And so the next time I started making a choice that was more aligned with whole foods and realizing I felt better and then wanting to do that again. And so if you, for example, find yourself naturally finding it hard to get protein or fiber in when you're feeling sick, and it can be sometimes an indication that those habits just aren't quite as ingrained in your lifestyle yet in a normal day-to-day manner. And again, no judgment there if that's where you're at, but just start to recognize that. And then it's something that you can also start to solidify more of your routine when you are feeling back to your optimal health. So then when you are sick again, it might become something that's also more natural to you. And one of the things I love hearing from my clients when I've been working for them for a while is, let's say, for example, they've been a bit out of their routine, they've been traveling, or they have been a bit under the weather and not able to stomach much, is that when they're able to then focus on those pillars of health again, they just literally feel like, oh my goodness, it's so good to be doing this again. And that's a great sign that you have a really rock solid routine that is supporting you, that is helping you feel your best. And if you're not quite there yet, that is completely okay. Just remember that all of this stuff can be done with practice. I only got to where I'm at today with practicing all of the things that I'm sharing with you over and over, making mistakes, making tweaks, seeing what worked for me, experiencing what didn't, and then making a course correction. And so just keep going with wherever you're at, but ask yourself, what can I do out of those foundational pillars of health? And 9 times out of 10, we can always do something, and that is going to be better than doing nothing. Very rarely is doing absolutely nothing going to be the thing that's actually going to help us feel better faster. So let me walk you through a bit more about what I'm doing right now as I navigate not exactly feeling my best. So when it comes to my nutrition, I am still sticking to my current deficit nutrition targets. If I felt like I wasn't able to do that, because let's say, for example, I felt like I was completely exhausted, I was really hungry, and I really felt like I needed to give my body even more fuel and nutrients than I'm giving myself right now, I would be, first of all, having a conversation with my coach, telling him how I was feeling, telling him that I was under the weather, and coming up with a strategy that was going to help that with my coach. As it is, I'm already feeling pretty good with my deficit targets. They're not actually that low right now either. I'm on 1675 calories for 3 days a week and 1885 calories for 4 days a week. And because my targets are completely packed with whole foods, I actually feel very nourished. And just like many people, when you're feeling a little bit under the weather, I'm not as hungry as I normally am. And so it's actually kind of okay for me to stay in my deficit targets right now. I'm finding them very manageable. I still feel generally pretty good. Where I have made some tweaks though is my training. And I wanted to separate training out from the pillars of health that I mentioned earlier, even though strength training and a bit of cardio is definitely part of the pillars of health, in my opinion. When it comes to whether you should train if you are sick, this is where it really does come down to exactly how sick you are, at what point of your illness you're at. And the question I always ask my clients to reflect on is whether they think training is going to help or hinder their recovery. Because there's no point in going to a training session and pushing yourself to train if it's only going to set your recovery back further. The most important thing, if you are not well, is to get you back to full health as quickly as possible so that then you can continue progressing. And so when it comes to training, I do think that, first of all, I tend to avoid a public gym if I feel like I'm contagious. And then if I feel like I am well enough to be in a public gym, the next question I ask is, what is the best thing for me to be doing right now? And normally, I try to focus on doing some steady state cardio instead of a heavy weight session. So on Tuesday, for example, I was meant to be doing my lower body day, and there was no way that I was in a place mentally or physically to feel like I would be able to push to do lower body. And so I did actually end up training upper body that day. I find upper body training so much easier than lower body, even though I still push myself in upper body. I just enjoy it more, and I find it less taxing as well. So I went and did my upper body session on the Tuesday, and it actually went okay. Because sometimes I've been feeling okay, sometimes I've not been feeling great. It's kind of been going up and down in waves. But the other days, I have been doing my steady state cardio because I've been happy staying on my lower calories for the 3 days earlier this week. And steady state cardio, I just don't find particularly taxing. The whole point of it is that it's in zone 2. You're not pushing your heart rate up too much. You're not really kind of like sweating loads or going for it. It's not too exhausting. And having some movement I've actually found particularly helpful for me. So I've been doing my steady state cardio instead, and then I've moved my training around so that I don't have my lower body day until tomorrow. And I'm feeling so much better now, so I'm hoping that another night's sleep will mean that I'll wake up tomorrow, feel refreshed, and able to go and do my lower body session. But even then, I will also be checking in with how I'm feeling, and if it's not my best session, I'm okay with that. But crucially, I'm not going to go in there thinking it's going to be my worst session either. So sometimes clients will say to me, if I go and train, am I okay to just go through the motions and just go and take it easy? And I'm like, yes, technically. Like, I don't want you thinking you've got to go in there and completely flog yourself, because if that's going to hinder your recovery, that's not what we want. But also, I don't want you to go in there thinking it's automatically going to be a bad session, because the mindset that you have when you go into a session often determines the results. And so I always just say, go and see, just go and experiment. Yes, listen to your body, but don't presume it's going to be bad, because sometimes we can have our best sessions on the days that we actually really don't think that we're going to. So go in there with a mindset of listen to your body, but just see how you feel. Make sure you're well fueled before you go into it, and then just give it your best shot. And it's okay if you're not getting PRs that day, but also allow yourself to be pleasantly surprised. That really is as simple as I keep it. Is this going to hinder my recovery or is it going to help it? Can I move it around to make sure that I'm doing something that feels a bit better for my body today? And then when I'm in the session, I don't put loads of pressure on myself for it to be the best session ever, but I also just go in there with an attitude of let's see. And then the other thing I do if I'm ever experiencing sickness is I'm really on it with my self-talk. I don't think enough people realize how powerful our words are. Whatever you focus on expands. So if you keep telling yourself things like, I feel awful, oh my God, it's taken me so long to recover, I feel so sick, when is this going to end? That is what you are focusing on and expanding. So instead, I say things to myself like, I have a powerful immune system, I'm getting better and better every day. I am feeling so much better. I am going to get through this so quickly. And I put my focus on that as much as possible. And so as much as I have been giving Joe a little bit of sympathy and support as he's been going through feeling rough, whenever he has been wallowing in how sick he's been feeling, I've been like, nope, let's talk about how much better you're starting to feel. Because it doesn't help at the end of the day to just keep wallowing in it. Your mindset really does affect how you continue to feel. And so talk about what you want to experience instead of exactly what you are experiencing if you want to get out of it faster. Ultimately, though, a healthy body is a responsive body. And so there's no point in continuing to push for body composition goals if your body isn't in a good state to respond. That recovery has to come first. But that question, what can I do, is going to get you back into your healthiest self as quickly as possible to then be able to continue making progress. And I always just love to think of health and fitness like a dial. The goal is never to turn that dial all the way off. And if you are in a fat loss phase or you're working on a photo shoot prep like I am, that dial might be cranked right up towards a 9, never a 10, because it's never about being perfect. But if you are sick, you might need to turn that dial down a bit about what you can actually manage in that moment, what kind of approach you can give and how much you can give to your targets and things like that. And that is okay. But the goal is never to completely switch that dial off, because you'll be able to then dial things back up again as soon as you are in a healthier, more recovered place to do so. There is never going to be a perfect journey to your body composition goals. There is going to be challenges that come up, times where you feel like you've messed up, times where you get sick and you can't do anything about it. It's always about how you navigate these things. And if you navigate it in a way that didn't quite work out for you, then that's something that you can learn for the next time. And so just keep taking those learnings, keep asking for help and support if you have a coach as well, asking what can I do instead of deciding that you can't do anything. And all of these things just become so much less stressful. I don't get stressed by these things anymore because I know my routine is always solid in some form. I will be able to get back to it even if it's temporarily stalled. Nothing is gone forever. So I hope this can give you some light relief if you are experiencing any of these things yourself, just so that you can navigate your nutrition and your training in a way that's going to get you back to your full health as quickly as possible, because that's always ultimately the goal. So that's it for today. If this episode was helpful, let me know on Instagram at Kathy Morton Fitness. I would love to know. And of course, if you are looking to apply for coaching, make sure you check out the links in the show notes below, or get on the priority list for my group coaching program, Lean Body Blueprint, which will be opening its doors again in about a month's time. But for now, I will see you in the next episode. Bye.